Good morning, and welcome back. We're back to the daily morning writing vlog. A vlog where I wake up as early as I can every morning to get as much writing done as I can for the third book of a trilogy that I am currently working on. In the process, kind of just talk about and noodle my way through my writing process in hopes that if there is somebody watching who's also likewise trying to write a book or write anything or do any kind of project, that some of my meanderings prove to be helpful in some way, or at least the process is entertaining for those who choose to watch it. But because we're back after a little bit of a hiatus, aka 1 week so I could finish, well, not finish, but work on a side project that I was enticed by, as always, coffee. I need like a little rolling cart of some kind to put right here next to my little seat, so I can just set my coffee here and then scooch it away when I don't need it. As of right now, I have to lean super far forward to set it on the table. So it's going to be a little bit of a slow morning trying to get back into the writing routine after a week off, but I prevented myself from making the big mistake of I'll take a few more days, because if that happens, we'll never get back into writing. Because I know me. If I take a break and I start to be maybe I'll just give myself a little bit longer, that little bit longer will turn into way too long and it will just never happen. Hence the accidental 6-month hiatus I took from starting this manuscript to restarting it now. Well, not restarting, but getting back into the writing process. Anyway, this morning, we are sitting at 31,032 words. I'm just hoping to get a few words. Any words is better than no words right now. So, still in chapter 5. I feel like that's going to be the theme for the next 6 months. Still on chapter 5. But I like chapter 5 at least. That's a good thing. Now let me just regain my bearings as to where I'm at. Interesting. So I left in a point where... Interesting. Okay, so here's a little piece of writing advice. If you're in the process of writing something and decide to take a break, if you know you're going to take a break, leave yourself in a place where it's going to be easy to pick up without doing too much legwork. Because where I left myself is in the middle of a sentence, essentially. And now I have to try and refigure out how I wanted to write the sentence, what was in the middle of my brain, and how I want to finish this paragraph. So, neat. Don't do that. Don't do that. I just wrote a word, and I think that word, it's not a super rare or exciting word, but I think it's a good word for the vocab word of the day. Now, the tense I use is different. I use the word ebbing, but I am going to use the word ebb for our word of the day. Now, usually it's used to talk about ebb and flow, but I can't say why I used it. It'll spoil things. But the word of the day is ebb. The movement of the tide out to sea the ebb tide, or a verb of tide water, move away from the land, recede, the tide began to ebb. Or 2, of an emotion or quality, gradually lessen or reduce. My enthusiasm was ebbing away, which is closer to the way I used it in my sentence. Some similar words are to recede or diminish or dwindle. It comes from an Old English word ebba, which is a noun, or ebbian, verb, of West Germanic origin, related to Dutch ebbe, which is a noun, or ebben, verb, and ultimately of which had the primary sense away from. There we go. That's the word for the day. Ebb. As I accidentally smack my keyboard and type a bunch of stuff. But anyway, until tomorrow. I don't know what this was, but there you go. I think for a Monday it'll be good just to write 100. I'm tired. I'm sleepy. I've got a lot of other things that I want to finish. 100 words is going to be good. So this is an interesting thing I just ran into. I'm going to need coffee to contemplate this. Sometimes if you're working, especially in fantasy, this is science fiction, but it's also, I think it's what you call sci-fantasy or sci-fantasy, whatever. Anyway, it's sci-fi fantasy, both, because there is science fiction and magic. Now the magic is worded in a way to make it science fiction. It's based in not real science, but pseudoscience. But for all intents and purposes, it's magic, right? It's explained away within universe within universe scientists. Words are hard. It's the first day back after a week. It's explained away within the universe with scientific terms, as if it is a science of the world that we're in, but it is magic. Anyway, that's far away from the point I'm trying to make. Sometimes when you're working with a magic system, and maybe I'll do my own little video on magic systems. I know there's a million out there. Brandon Sanderson has his own lecture, his own talk about how to create magic systems and what have you. But maybe I'll do my own. That being said, sometimes when you're working within a magic system, you'll have an interaction that you don't expect. You'll have a thing that's supposed to do one thing, and then, let me sit my coffee down. You'll have a thing that's supposed to do one thing here, and a thing that's supposed to do another thing completely differently here, okay? Very rarely do you have instances where those two things do this, or work within one another. I know that's a very vague and useless thing, but the point I'm trying to make is sometimes you'll have unexpected interactions within your magic system, and then you just have to try and figure out how to do it. I'm 3 books in, and this is happening, where there's an interaction between two different aspects of this magic system, and I'm not sure how that would take form. So I gotta noodle that for a little bit. And the thing to note, if you're also a fellow author or writer or want to be author, or you're just, once again, curious about the process, if you put it in writing, it is now there. It is now a thing that can happen. It is canon. It is a canon event. There's no takesies backsies. So if a thing can happen within your magic system, and it happens in a scene that you're writing, then forever and always within the series, whatever you're working on, it is a thing that can happen, unless you find a clever way to explain it away. So always be careful about how you develop those interactions, because they can open the door to some unwanted possibilities. So I'm going to sit on this one for a few minutes and think about it. Because that brings up another little piece of advice. You have to worry about scale, especially when you're working on a series. Because if you get things that are too ridiculous, too quick, too, I guess, overpowered, there's going to be a harder and harder challenge to make things challenging for your characters. It's actually a fun little... I like to play Pathfinder, tabletop role-playing game, and it is a challenge within that game if you are also a Pathfinder or D&D enthusiast. When you're game mastering, there's this issue where you have to make sure that you make the game challenging for your players, but not too challenging to the point where it's not fun or it's impossible for them to win. Now, it's a little bit different in books because you kind of you want to make it seem impossible, but then somehow, against all odds, the characters overcome the impossibilities. But within Pathfinder, you want to make things a level challenge for what they're experiencing. And because of that, there's this fun little cat and mouse game of like, well, they're this strong, how do I make them afraid but not overwhelmed? You know, because it's a game where it's not an us versus them, or you versus your players, or game master versus player. This is a whole side tangent, I'm sorry, but my brain is lingering here now. It's a cooperative game in all aspects. Sure, you're throwing monsters and challenges at them, but the whole goal is to make sure those people have fun, that everyone involved has an enjoyable time. This is kind of like that, where it's like, if I create a thing that does this thing in this book, because of the way these two parts of this power could interact, a lot of things become less challenging. And if it gets too easy, then it's boring, right? That's the other aspect of the game that my brain just didn't want to throw out into the vocalized universe. If you make things too easy, players can get bored easily, and they're not as interested. They're just like, oh, well, throw ability, kill monster, move on. Puzzle too easy, go home. It's the same in books. Obviously, you can't make things too easy. And the issue is, if I let this go the way I think it could go with the interaction of these two powers, that could make something a little bit too easy for some people in this book. And if I make it too easy, obviously, you have something really, really boring, and you don't want that. I'm talking a lot this episode. It's been a week since I've gotten to talk to everybody, so welcome back. I'm just going to keep gabbing away. But that means you have to make things 1,000 times more difficult. The scalability thing, which is fine, which is good for the story, but it also has to raise the question, how big of a challenge? Maybe that's not the correct way to go about it. Not necessarily how big of a challenge, but like how large in scale of the challenge, right? Is it going to be, do you still want them to face smaller entities, or in the case of this situation, now have to face godlike beings if I let this be a thing? You know? Like, oh. I'm all over the place. Hey, like how large of a scale do you want to bring the universe into? Now this is, if you've read the books, this is cosmic horror, so there are entities that could exist within this universe. Anyway, I've started at the beginning of this sentence, and I've somehow ended up down the brook over the side of the ditch into the water, down the river, and into the Mississippi, I am 1,000 miles away from where I started in this little tidbit. But that's all to be said. Sometimes when you're writing things with magic systems, you don't know where they're going to end up and how the interactions are going to lead, and you have to try and deal with that. It's an interesting challenge. Coffee. But I think I figured out what I want to do. We're gonna do it. We're just gonna lean into it. Things get doubly complicated when your powers are the magic system within your story, series, franchise, saga is all steeped in shifting reality and perception. It makes things very wonky, very quick, very strange. But it's kind of a fun thought exercise. It challenges me just as much as it challenges somebody to understand what's going on. I think because of the nature of this writing vlog, of today's writing, I'm just going to finish this thought, get to our next scene, and that's where I'm going to call it for the day. Because it's enough for, after a week-long break, it's enough to just get to the next scene for me, and then we'll get the momentum going for tomorrow. I think that's a perfect place to stop. We are ending at 31,193 words. We just probably about 100 words today, but that's okay. I'm back in the flow of writing, which is good. Coffee is flowing, which is better. And I'm leaving myself in a place where I've set myself up for tomorrow to be able to write a very fun scene that should be able to start segueing into the end of this chapter, since this chapter is probably already too large. Yeah, I've set myself up for a good place to write tomorrow. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it there. And I'm going to call it a morning. So thank you so much for joining me this morning on our lovely little writing vlog. And if you could hit the subscribe button if you're watching this, that would be amazing, because it's going to help the channel and myself grow. And that's it. Hit the like button too, because that shows the algorithm that you like the vlogs and want to see more of them. You want to see more of me, and that's fantastic. But yeah, that's neither here nor there. I'll see you tomorrow.